Hello, my name is Bobak Lotfipour, and we'll be going over the track I made for Connie and Sly. With this tune, the director Laurence wanted this car alarm sound that we're all used to, and to kind of cut it up and slice it up and make it into like an instrument. And so the beginning of the song will go through the cycles of this car alarm that we've all heard before. It's going through a few different spots, and I just cut it up. And there's one sample of the alarm where we just add a lot of reverb into, and it's kind of like the song kind of starts here. And we now have an instrument I made from these car alarm samples, and so I could actually play it all on the keyboard. And so I can kind of really find some sweet spots. And I remember sitting in my bedroom at the time when I wrote this song and was trying to find rhythmically things that are interesting with this car alarm, because really the car alarm is very annoying and it could get old really fast. So I wanted to find some types of rhythm. So it's kind of painting a bit, and I just came up with this part, this first part. Then it will go into another part, like I stacked these instruments. I have a few of them going on here, making a collage here. And at this point, I remember writing this, I'm just kind of jamming. I'm like going through different spots, kind of finding spots that feel good. After that, we go to another layer. So this is all of the car alarms put together now. Yeah, so it gets kind of crazy. There was the car alarm collage of all those instruments, which is about like 6 of them. Then we're going into some synths. I really loved this Serum. This is like some cello preset that I messed around with, and I named it Dirty Serum. I made it dirty sounding, so let's see what that sounds like. Kind of ominous. I use this a lot in a lot of scoring work, and I felt like, well, this is basically what this was. We're kind of making a short film here, so I felt like let's use this synthesizer. I can kind of listen to that all day. I love that sound. Same thing here, an octave up. Or something like that. Let's see. And then we had to go into some 808s here. Yeah, so those are what starts leading us into our song more like bringing in the snare drums, which is just being that I was working out of this tiny bedroom, I couldn't play any of my percussion. So I have a good amount of sound libraries, so I kind of messing around with some snare drum sounds and using an orchestral snare drum to kind of bring us in to the meat of the song. Automated the volume here. Now lead us into the song here. So yeah, and then after that snare drum, we're going to take these low drums. Also, for the ones that are interested in knowing what these snare drum and low drums are coming from, is this True Strike sound library. And so this Big Bang kit, I love it. There's like all these like crazy low end stuff, and I kind of have some effects on it. Some EQ. Effects rack is on here, I guess, on the bus and on the track itself. one of these presets on the effects rack in Sound Toys under the lava. I dig this one. I muted some of the effects here, but this kind of has some grit to it, like some pain to it. Also another like cinematic part of this track, which I really dig, putting those elements in. So those are those low drums that's kind of bringing us into like this part of the song now. Okay, and so alright, so I kind of want to talk about this sampled boy. This is a field recording I've done a long time ago. It could be my cousin. The people that are new to the term field recording, it's really, I recorded it on my phone. I'm just walking around. Going on tour a lot. I'll record going to go eat lunch. Maybe there's like a saxophone player on the corner. I'll record that. And I'll just start I bring that all home and I'll just make little virtual instruments, put it on the keyboard, and I'll just start having my own sound effects and adding my effects to it, whatever chain of effects I want for that instrument. And I'll just have like a nice, I love to have the recording to have all these little details in the middle of it. It does add that feeling of like detail, like some depth to it. But I just made an instrument out of it. And I just wanted some breathy rhythmic things to add a little bit of, I guess, humanity to it. Not everything's going to be so synthy. And this is what it ended up being here. Yeah, so I'm just kind of treating it like a snare drum in a way. Like I'll treat it as like a kit, like a drum set. Like there's like a snare drum approach to it, little fills. And this is kind of that. Yeah, I just want that breathiness. I just want that kind of getting us ready, like what's about to happen. A little bit of tension, like that's kind of unsettling, right? To hear this like feel like a lot of this stuff comes from when I'm on tour. That's probably when I do it the most. And I feel like my ears are just really open a lot. Like I'm in that zone. I'm just listening a lot to what's around me. Bars, talking, birds, singing, footsteps, musicians around the corner, the world happening, just kind of capturing little glimpses of that in time. You just kind of go crazy on that stuff. This bass sound, I feel like this really inspired me to go into this. It's kind of a joyful little bass part here. I call it bass chunk. It's also another serum, maybe a preset. So yeah, it's chunky bass chop. And I probably messed around with some things here. Added some EQ, a decapitator, another Sound Toys distortion, just to have a little saturation on it, and some EQ, API EQ here. So here is that little chunky bass chop. Yeah, so that, I remember messing around with that part. I'm like, oh, this is really, I can really imagine some movement with this. Yeah, and with that, we also have this drag kit I call. It's just like this Ultra Beat Logic's like drum synth, and I'll just like drag in samples that I find or have made. And this one is like kind of like a sound effects kit I put together. This is the sound I used, and this kind of remind me of kind of like a callback to the car alarm. Just these little sound effects will kind of keep us in that world a bit. Yeah, I'm using this drag sound effects kit as like a drum kit, just like I did with the little boy instrument I made. Just to add some bit of tension when it goes into a bigger part here, like. snare drums come back in. That bass chunk really coming out. Yeah, just to talk about this, I tend to go ahead and print from these, like this bank here. This is the instrument itself, and just to save CPU power, I'll print it, and it's just easier to mess around with. I'll print the automation here, and then we have something that takes less CPU. Okay, so another sound here that still plays through, let's call this like the verse. Playing through the verse here. Yeah, there's that, and that kind of brings me out here, our backbeat, our snares here. Yeah. Okay, so this timbale sound is also coming from True Strike also. And True Strike is awesome. Like, it has come in handy a lot. So for the people that can't record their own percussion or can't hire musicians, I recommend True Strike. It has saved me so many times. And I do record my own percussion, but sometimes you can't do it at 3 a.m. So yeah, there's the timbale sound, also a little saturation and EQ on it. And let's hear that in context here. Now we're coming out of this chorus into this more sinister part. I was envisioning this being a time where the dancers could have, like, there's a breath, like we just took this breath. Now all of a sudden this mood is changing. We are now going into more like a darker beat. So this Casio, I do have this Casio that's in my shed right now. Love this chain I put together for it, and it has such an interesting sound to it. Let's see here, really good for this transition. And here it comes. That's it. It's like bubbly and it has just like, it's kind of unsettling. This chain, let's talk about the chain a bit here. So I use Sound Toys stuff for this session a lot, which is Pan Man, which is setting this the track left to right on its own, and I have the rate pretty low here, so it's doing it slowly. I feel like when you use this type of plugin, it helps kind of fill up the spectrum a bit, the stereo spectrum, and it feels pleasant to kind of hear it in headphones, to kind of be oscillating back and forth. Use the effects rack and Sound Toys here. Let's see what this one is. Modulated space. And yeah, so there's a lot of echo on here. Bit of filter here. Micro shift, which I love a lot. This kind of helps with like the adding a stereo spread on it too. Kind of bounces it around. Decapitator for some saturation. This CQ, which is kind of like EQ, a little bit more saturation there. I used, and really I'm just kind of like picking things that I like. At the time when I wrote this, I feel like I was new to Sound Toys, so I was just kind of just playing around with it, whatever sounded good. This is this robotic preset, and I just kind of messed around with some different parts here, and then a little EQ here. So let's hear that part. Let's hear it again. Yeah, so that's that. Getting into this, I use this Jupiter Arteria synth here. Let's see, a little synth pad here. Pretty simple, just kind of setting that darker mood. This Casio, I kind of used it as a snare drum in a way. Backbeat. It goes along with the beat of the tune really nicely here. this same thing. I used the Jupiter on this, and this is just for the arpeggiated part here that you're hearing. Here's a printed version of that. Pretty simple. We just automated some volume here, and then I automated many things here. Let's take a look at that. So we automated cutoff, resonance, some envelopes, and some modulation filters here, and then I just printed it all down to save CPU. And this is the print here. And that just kind of goes throughout the whole last part of this song. So then we have some dirty bass, which I think this one's coming from this 808 Warfare. My buddy turned me onto this. It's simple 808s. Yeah, and then back that up with some kicks from my Punchbox plug-in here, just to back it up a bit. And gotta love the woodblock sounds here, which came from True Strike. Same library here, using those tempo blocks. So we have woodblock, tempo blocks library here. I love the feeling of that rhythm. Really helps break it up. I would imagine myself dancing to that beat too. I really try to have fun with the pieces. And percussion and drums is that's my thing. So I really love adding these details. It adds a little bit of that. You just kind of want to bob your head to it. Add a little bit of detail goes a long way with these rhythms. We have this other kit, which is just our snare drums. Pretty straightforward on the snare drums. Let's take a listen here. It has a nice impact to it. With those tempo blocks, and the hi-hats kind of working up a little bit more here. 16th notes, 8th notes. Yeah, and then that's the end of the tune, and we go into this car alarm bounce here, which is, I believe I just added some pitch shifting here. Yeah, and there's the tune. Just as it began, a little differently, begins different and ends a little different. So my experience in creating this Connie Sly track, I feel like hearing the idea of the car alarm part kind of threw me off. I say, wouldn't that get really annoying? So I think my challenge was that how do I make a car alarm part not terribly annoying and rhythmic and as if you could dance to it. I think that was something that took me a little while to get my head wrapped around. But once I kind of figured out a way to do it, making little virtual instruments out of these car alarm tracks, everything else kind of started falling in place. And I had not ever written a choreographed piece before where someone was going to dance to it. It was a new challenge, and I really did enjoy the challenge. It was really great working with Laurence and discussing how to do this. There was a first take at this tune that was completely different, which later that tune got used later on in the short film as the end credits. And then the second version, what was being danced to, made the cut. Laurence was into it. And that is how I made the Connie and Sly theme song.